mode. Please, if you do have any questions, go ahead and type them in. I'll try to keep an eye on that box. And we'll get started with this webinar today about what is new in the 2015 version. Now, I'm going to start by telling you, and I don't want to distress you at all, but I'm going to start by telling you that Sage is actually going to release the 2016 version next month. So I know you just all gasped and thought, oh my gosh, how can we be this far behind? But it is very unusual for you to not or for them to release this version this early on, but they have decided to release 2016 in October of this year. So don't worry, we're all still just looking at 2015, and to our norm, what we would like to do is hold off on that 2016 until we know that everything is worked out in it, if there is any problems at all. So 2015 was actually released in April. And like I said, we normally wait at bare minimum 90 days. Some of us have already installed the 2015. We have started doing installations within this past month, and things are going, pretty good with it. So I'm also going to tell you that the information that I put together today, I've gathered up most of what's in there, but not everything, because I didn't have enough time. So we may go over the 30 minutes. If you do, keep in mind that we are being recorded, so you can go out to the website and take a look and see what you have missed. But all in all, if you can hang with me, I think I've got a lot of exciting things to show you in this 2015 version. I know I was excited when I was taking a look at it. So let's go ahead and dig in, get started. We're going to start with General Ledger. And what I wanted to show you here, and some of this stuff seems very minor, but for those of us that it affects on a day-to-day basis, it actually is pretty major. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this screen right here. This is what the prior version looked like. If you went to run a report and you keyed in your account number and you used departments, if you keyed it in just like that, the report wouldn't find your GL account number because you didn't put the dashes in. And I don't know about the rest of you, but that drove me absolutely insane. So what they have done, not that they did it necessarily for me and my sanity, but what they have done is now when you key in a value, your GL account number, once again, not putting in the dashes, I keyed it in, hit enter, and voila, they put those dashes in for us. So the account number is formatted in various areas, which is actually really, really, really nice, okay? One of the other items that I wanted to show you is they have added a out of balance on our general ledger detail report. Now, remember when we print a trial balance, it always shows us that it's out of balance. But the general ledger detail report really didn't have that message for us, okay? So let me go ahead and print a general ledger detail report, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If I get down here to the bottom, now it shows me the detail report is out of balance. So we will be able to eyeball that and go, oh my goodness, what has happened? A lot of us, we just, we don't catch it necessarily, but look, yes indeed, we are out of balance here. So they've added that message to this report, and what they've also done is if I look at the general ledger detail by source report, and let's kind of take a step back. When we have users call us and they say, hey, my trial balance is out of balance, or now they're going to call and say, hey, my general ledger detail report is out of balance. One of the first things that I do is I go back through and I take a look at all the journal entries that have been done. I'll find the month that went out of balance, and then I'll take a look at all the journal entries. Now, for some of us, that can be pretty hairy. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my preview here, meaning when I run a GL detail by source report, it can be hundreds of pages long. So now what they've done, I'm going to use my little binoculars here and do my search, and I'm going to search for not in balance. and I'm going to do Find Next. Now, the first one it's going to find here is a journal entry with BBs. Those of you who have been with the software a long time know that BB stood for beginning balance way back when. We don't use that code anymore. It was reserved, and that's where this one came from. But that's not the one that I'm looking for, because that was corrected with another journal entry. But this is the one that I'm looking for right here. This is an inventory transaction, and it now is showing me that it is out of balance. And there's that $1,215 I saw in my general ledger detail report. So it is going to really speed up the situation where we do have out of balance conditions. And I know some of you are scratching your heads right now going, well, what do you mean we have an out of balance? We can't have an out of balance. It's not allowed. Well, it does happen. We have hiccups every now and again, and the system can post an out of balance. But this is a quick and easy way to find it now, rather than having to dig through, page by page by page like we used to have to try to find it. A lot of good eyeballing with that too, let me tell you. Okay, so now let's go to our next feature, which is really cool. Okay, let's go to account maintenance here, and I'm going to pull up an account, and what I'm going to find, oops, got too many ones in there, is I'm going to go to my transactions tab, and lo and behold, if I look at this, I'm seeing here is, oh my gosh, look, I did my depreciation journal entry twice in the month of May. Well, if I click on this one that I accidentally duplicated, I have a new icon over here called, well, let's see if I can get my mouse to, there it goes, Journal Reversal. Ta-da! Something you guys have been asking for a very long time. It's a reversal button, okay? But you got to keep in mind, you got to be careful with that, okay? And make sure that you use it, when you really need it, or you really, know, hey, this is one I really do want to reverse, and what else does it affect? Well, in this case, I just accidentally duplicated a journal, so I'm going to click on my reversal here, and it's telling me the reversal is complete. Review the entry in General Journal Entry before updating. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK there, accept this, and I'm going to go back to my general journal entry, because that is where my entry is now sitting. So if I click on my flashlight, which lists unposted entries, I'm going to go ahead and select that, and it shows me that it's a reversal of the journal. It gives me the journal code, and then it does the reversing entry for me. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that and post it just like I normally would any other journal entry. And when we got paperless turned on, so we're going to have our paperless document come up here. And I'm going to exit out of there and update. And let's go back to account maintenance. And we're going to put this entry in here, or the account number in there. Look at my transactions, and there's my reversal right here. So now we have a new button. Isn't that awesome? I think some of you may be applauding right now, but I can't hear you, so I'm not sure. Okay, so that's some of the new features in General Ledger. Let's go down to Accounts Payable and take a look in here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into Vendor Maintenance, and one of the features that they have added is a increased size, not of the vendor number, but of the vendor name. So now I can type in a very long, it's 50 characters, vendor name. Okay, so, really nice, but keep in mind that if you do something like that, it also has to be adjusted on all your checks and reports and forms. And various of those are already adjusted for you for the increased length. But a lot of people really wanted to see a much larger length there. Now, what I would also like to see, kind of what they did in accounts receivable, is it would be nice if we could increase the vendor number just like we are able to now in AR. Okay, what's another feature that they have added to AP is the ability for those of us that use credit card vendors, so let's look at our American Express. When we look at our invoices in here, as you well know, some of you are using this feature, some of you are not. What you can do when you have a credit card vendor, you want to put your invoices on the original vendor that you had the expense for. Like if you bought something from Dell Computer or Office Depot or whatever, you put the invoices on that particular vendor, and then you transfer them over to your credit card vendor. There was always a select button in there, and it was always grayed out. And I would have people call and say, hey, why can't I click on the select button? Now, this is the old version here. It looks very, just like the screen that we just looked at, but I'm in invoice data entry. And here's that select button that I was talking about. Well, the only thing that in the prior versions that select button allowed you to do was select invoices that were already in the credit card vendor and basically compress them down into one. Great, but that's not exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to combine these invoices from a vendor without having to do one at a time and then go in and combine them. So what am I talking about here? Well, let's go into invoice data entry, and I'm going to pull up my American Express credit card vendor, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm going to call this invoice number 53120, so that's my May invoices, and I know that the vendor that I'm pulling from, I'm pulling over $3,350 worth of invoices. So when I go to my lines tab, it defaults here to the GL account number because that's the GL account I have set up in my Amex vendor. So I'm going to remove that line because I don't want that in there. And I'm going to click on my transfer button. Okay, so we click on the transfer button, and now I'm going to choose the vendor that I want to transfer invoices from. So here it is. Now normally I would have to click on each individual invoice, but now I can click the select button and it will allow me to select the invoices that I want to transfer over to the American Express vendor. I've had this question so many times over the years. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK here, and now I've got that dollar amount sitting in my invoice for my Amex vendor. I'm going to accept it, and let's go ahead and print that register. And our invoice register will appear on the screen here, and it will show you that we transferred them from Airway, those two invoices. I'm going to exit out of here and update. And we'll go ahead and update the daily transaction register. Remember, I always like you to do that because otherwise we'll find them hanging out there at the end of the month when we try to do a bank rec or balance our payables or receivables. So we're going to update the daily transaction. And now if I go back and I look at American Express, and I go to my invoices, there is the combined invoice. I can double click, and I can go to my lines, and it shows that it was transferred. And once again, I can go and I can look at any comment text, or I can look at my transfer information and see that it was transferred from Airway. So that's a pretty cool feature for those of us who are using that credit card vendor or who maybe want to start. Maybe some of us right now that the light bulb just went on and went, oh my gosh, I didn't know we could even do that. But that is a new feature allowing us to pull multiples instead of doing one at a time. Okay. Another new feature. Let's go into invoice payment selection. Now when you come in here, I'm going to push this date out a little bit. Let's go to June. We're going to go to June 30th, and I'm going to hit my select button. Now when you come in here, how are these always formatted? Well, you always have the vendor number first, and then their invoice number, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this is kind of cool, guys. Now we have a new button over here called Sort Columns. I'm going to click on that button. So what I can do is I can say, well, maybe I don't want it in vendor number order. Maybe I might want it in due date order. And I can choose ascending or descending. And then from there, maybe I want it in vendor number order. Okay? Now, what will happen is that will stick. I will have that from now on because that way I can come in here and I'm going to go, okay, well, these are due now. So these are the top ones that I want to select. So that's a really, really neat feature, and it is available not only in invoice payment selection, it's available in check and electronic payment maintenance, manual check and payment, vendor transfer invoices, and also AR to AP clearing, which we talked about in a different webinar. Not very many of us use that because that thing does some weird stuff to our statements. So anyway, but that's kind of a neat, cool feature of the 2015. Okay, so let's move on to accounts receivable. I know I'm moving really fast, guys, but I'm trying to get us within our time period. But once again, if you have questions at the end, don't hesitate in calling us. So let's go on and go to accounts receivable. Now, in here, I'm going to go into cash receipts entry. And I'm going to look, and I'm going to see that this is what happens to us sometimes. Maybe we're in the middle of doing a deposit, we leave for lunch, or somebody needs us to real quick write them a check, or we've got to go to a meeting or do something else, and then we have to come back in. So I'm going to come into this deposit that I had started, into this batch, and I now have a new button here, which is a flashlight. And you know, I can come in here, I can click on the magnifying glass, and I can see, okay, well, here's my deposit. Okay, that's great, but where was I? What have I already put into this batch? If I clicked on the flashlight, it shows me, here's my deposit number, here's the customer, there's the check number, and this is the amount I've already posted. So that's kind of a cool feature to be able to see. I have, you know, we've got clients that they have hundreds of checks that go into a batch. So this will allow them to see, okay, you know, where was I? Did I put this in? You can sort, you know, the columns, you know, by check number or you know, whatever to look something up. But that's the new feature in accounts receivable, is being able to have that list button. Okay, and I'm going to back on out of here, and let's go to customer maintenance. Now, this is interesting. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but there is a new feature in accounts receivable for those of us who use the sales order module. Now, it should, you know, perk up a couple ears. For those of us who use the sales order module, I'm going to click on the ship to address, and you notice that in the customer master file we have a ship code. So you have your default ship via, you know, the way that this customer normally ships, but you may have ship to locations, and in the ship to location you can now also put in a ship via code. That was not there before. So each location can now have their own ship via code. Kind of cool. All right, so now what else do we have? Commissions. Oh, there's a neat new feature here in our report for commissions. We have some folks that when they pay commissions, novel idea, they pay commissions on paid invoices only. So their salespeople do not get paid until the company gets paid. What a great idea. So now in the salesperson commission report, I can actually print it by pay date. So maybe I want to see just the invoices that were paid by this particular date. I'm going to leave that to all, and I'm going to hit a preview. So what you can see here on this report is now there is a paid date column. Now keep in mind, if you do not have pay commissions, you know, only if they are paid set up in your options, your AR options, this column will not appear, and nor will, you know, this, you know, these two columns here. They won't appear either, okay? But this is set up for those people who pay it on paid invoices only. So now we have a paid date, so we can see what date that they were actually paid by the customer. Okay, neat, kind of cool feature. I really like that myself. Now, all right, you purchasing people, you sit up now because this is your section. I actually got really excited when I started looking at the purchase order stuff, because this is stuff that we've been asking for years. So let's go into our setup options of purchase order. And now we have on our history tab, we have this new section, retain purchase order history. Little applause. You can do it. And if, they may be jumping up and down if you're sitting next to a purchasing person right now going, oh my gosh, I've been looking for this forever. Because what happens is when you do receipt of goods and receipt of invoice on your purchase order, and let's say you're retaining those POs for 60 or 90 days and somebody closes the month, the PO disappears. So what we end up happening is our purchasing people end up keeping their POs out there for 999 days, whether or not they're completed, because they want to keep that history. They want to look up at that old PO and see what they ordered. Well, guess what, guys? You don't have to do that anymore. This will operate just like sales orders do. So our sales order people, you know how when you do a sales order and you invoice it, it drops off the sales order entry window, but it goes into sales order history. POs are going to act exactly the same. So if you're sitting next to a PO person, you can say, hey, look, I can show you what it's going to do. So this will automatically put your POs in history. This will prompt you if you want to keep the deleted POs in history or deleted lines. Okay, so now under our inquiry tab here, oops, I hit main. Under our inquiry tab here, we now have purchase order history inquiry. So just like I said, same as it looked like in sales order, here are all your open POs. These are active. X is deleted. C is completed. So I've done the receipt of goods, I've done the receipt of invoice, and my PO is completed. So it will stay out there, which is, really cool. It's going to stay out there for us until we purge it out. So it even tells you that this is a completed order. I can go to my lines, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to see on my screen, I have ordered, received, back ordered, quantity invoiced. I actually edited my screen because it did not, by default, have the quantity invoiced on there, and I wanted to see that because I want to make sure that my totals are the same on all of these. So you can edit your screen using Custom Office, okay? But really cool that we have it out there. You can click on a line and you can drill down into your receipt. You can see the receipt number. You can drill down even further and then to that. This is our receipt history. So you are going to be able to see a lot of information that you couldn't see before. When was it received? How many did I receive? Really cool, really awesome stuff. So what they've also done is they have, under the reports menu, they've added a new report called the Purchase History Report. And you can run this various ways. You can run it based on the revised quantity, original order, back order quantity, received quantity. I can do it for all types, whether it's canceled, drop shipped, material recs. Do I want to do it in summary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these options here. Do I want a specific PO? Lots of ways to print this report. One thing I want you to keep in mind, this report will always print in landscape. If it is a drop ship, meaning when we created the purchase order, we chose drop ship orders, a D will print next to the drop ship. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and preview this report so you can see it. I like it. There's one thing missing, though, in my world and in my opinion, I guess. They don't have the quantity invoiced on here. And I would love to see the quantity invoiced because if I'm going to print this report, I want to see that, the quantity that I received matches the quantity that I ordered, and I have, the quantity invoiced the same. I'm going back to that purchases clearing account, where those three have to be the same in order to complete that PO. So this is a Crystal report. I haven't looked at it yet, but I would bet you that we can edit this report to add that quantity invoice column if we wanted to. They have the last invoice date, but boy, I sure would like to see the invoice quantity on there. Okay, so along with retaining history, now we have to have the ability to purge history. So that's going to be under the Utilities menu, and you're going to see Purge Purchase Order History. So when you come in here, you can tell the system to purge the history on or before a specific date, and it will purge it out of the history files only. So if somebody makes a boo-boo, they're not going to accidentally delete them out of the purchase order entry file. Okay, so keep that in mind, because just like with sales orders, sometimes we go out to clients and I'll go and do the sales order history. We have 60, 70,000 orders out there, so you don't want your POs to get that file to get too big, especially if we're keeping history forever. Also keep in mind, whenever you do upgrade to the 2015 version, one of the steps during the upgrade will ask you if you want to create your purchase order history, and it will go into your PO entry file and copy that data into the history file for you during the conversion. Okay, that's something you want to keep in mind. That can be a long process if you have a lot out there. So let's go into another feature of purchase order. Very excited about this, guys. Very, very excited about this. Okay, I need to create a purchase order. So I'm going to click on my next new order number. And there's a new button, copy from. So now I can click on copy from, and I can say, well, what do I want to copy from? Do I want to copy from a purchase order, meaning that's in the purchase order entry file? Do I want to copy from purchase order history, meaning that this record is now in my history file, it's no longer in my data entry file, or my receipt history, or accounts payable? So I can actually come in here and say, okay, I want to copy from my history. I want to make it a standard order. I can also make it a dropship order or one of my other selections. I'm going to say standard. And hold on one second. My mouse just froze up. There we go. We're going to make it a standard order. And I can say what I want to copy from. So I can come down here to this completed one, and I can say, okay, and it will copy everything from that PO. Now, first question with that is, oh, am I stuck with these quantities, or can I change them? Absolutely, you can change them. Notice that these lines are available. These fields are open. They're not grayed out. So I can come in here and I can change these and edit them to be what I want them to be. I can remove a line if I want to remove, and it doesn't affect anything that I copied from. But that is a cool, cool, cool new feature, same as we had back in sales order when they added that. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that, and we're going to exit out of here for a second because I want to talk about another feature when it comes to printing purchase orders. So let's go back to purchase order options, and what you're going to see is on my, let's see, I believe it's printing tab here. Yes, here it is. Redisplay source document after quick printing. I had a client just the other day ask me, boy, when I quick print my PO, it goes back to a blank PO number, and I sure would like to keep that open. Well, you can do that in 2015 if you turn this on here, and this for return orders if you care to do that. So let's see what I'm talking about. If I go into purchase order entry, and let's go ahead and pull up that new PO I just created here, and I'm going to hit quick print. In the old days, after I hit quick print, I'm going to preview this, and going to go out, and what it does is it leaves that PO up on my screen. So that's the feature. It leaves this PO up on my screen. Maybe now I want to email it to somebody, or I don't know, something. But I have people all the time say, "Boy, I sure would love to be able to have this up on my screen." With this up on the screen, I'm going to show you. Let's see, is it in? Yeah, it's right here. Ship to address maintenance. What they have added here, believe it or not, sounds kind of weird, but they never had it before, is a warehouse field. So if you are an organization that has multiple ship-to addresses, you have a maybe you have a warehouse in Kansas City, and one in Washington, and one in Texas or whatever. You can now also put a warehouse code associated with this ship-to field, which we couldn't do before. So that's kind of a cool new feature. The other thing that I wanted to show you while we're on the screen is now, and this wasn't here before, the vendor memo button appears. Remember, we could do that in sales order. The customer memo button appears, or that may be new. I'll have to check that too. But the vendor memo button now appears, where before we just had the memo for the order. but this button will now appear over here to the right and over here for your vendor if you put memos in about the vendor. Okay, let's see. Let's go to under inquiries. Another new feature they added here. Let's go to receipt history inquiry. And I'm going to pull up that PO we've been playing with a little bit here. Let's go down to this. And I'm going to go to my lines tab. And what you're going to see, for those of you that use allocated cost on your purchase orders, that's a landed cost that we can add the freight amount into the cost of the item. It will now appear here on your receipt history inquiry what the allocated cost, individual cost for the items was. That's a new feature. And what else did I want to show you? Oh, okay, I'm going to pop over here real quick to vendor maintenance, and I'm going to show you another feature that they've added into paperless for those of you that want to email to your vendors. When you click on your email button, you can now use the email address and data entry. So that's more than invoice data entry. That will also allow you to put an email address in purchase order entry, and we can email to that address now also. So that's another new feature. Okay, so now we're going to change gears a little bit. I am actually going to change companies real quick. For those people who use bill of materials, we have a couple features in here which seem to really make sense to me that they've added this in. What we have is this new feature right here, sync bill description and item description. You can prompt, you can say yes, or you can say no. So what does that mean? Those of us that don't use bill of materials, we're like, what does that mean? Well, when you create a bill of materials, which is basically a kit for your items, you give it a bill description. It can't, but a bill is also an inventory item number. Well, maybe that item number is called one thing in inventory, and in your bill description you've called it something else. That is a problem for some of us because we don't want it to be called something else. So now we can tell the system, yes, I want to sync these descriptions up automatically, or I want the system to prompt me to do it so we don't make that mistake. Okay? So that's a new feature there. Now, also, in item maintenance, I can now, let's go ahead and pull an item up here. I can now actually get to my bill of materials from item maintenance. I never could do that before. I always had to open the bill of material window. Now I can click on the More button and go right to bill of material maintenance for this item, which is nice. It saves us some steps with not having to go, back and forth. Okay? So that's the new cool stuff for bill materials. A couple of us are going to be really happy out there. Now let's go back to my little demo company here. So I want to go into inventory and show you a few things in there that they've added. So let's go into item maintenance. And I'm going to pull up an item here. And I'm going to go to the transactions tab. Now on my transactions tab, what I have now is I can drill down into the journal transaction, which I couldn't do that before. I could drill down into the transaction type, whether it was a sales order invoice or purchase receipt or whatever, but I could never drill down into the actual journal entry. One thing I want to point out to those of us that are staring at this screen right now is one of the features I love on our journal Zoom is it tells me the date that it was updated. Now that's not the posting date. Posting date is over here, okay? So this is the date it was updated, the time, and who did the updating. It's my favorite secret because people always say, well, I didn't do that. And I say, really? Whose initials are those? Okay. But no, not to point fingers at anybody. But another feature of inventory is going to be right over here. I can click on it on main, or I can look at it in quantity, but look at this. last counted. This is our last physical count. So those of us who are attempting to do or who are doing cycle counting, we can now see on the screen when was the last time this item was counted. What was my posting date on that? So I love, personally, I like to cycle count, and for those of us who have very large inventories, this will really help you out. Okay, and you can see it here on the main tab. You can see it on your quantity tab. It's in both places. All righty. So now let's go over to the sales order module. Let's close that up. And let's show you what's new here. Oh, yes, it is. So if we come into sales order, and oops, left the number off there. We pull up the sales order just like we saw in purchase order. The customer memo button is now here, just like we saw over in PO. So that's been added. But keep in mind, with any of these memo buttons, guys, this is all controlled by memo maintenance and role maintenance. So real quick, I'm going to jump to what I'm talking about there. Under your setup options of each module, you have a memo manager. And that in here is where you tell the system what memos can pop up where and who can see them. Is it everybody? Is it just certain people? And am I showing them, hiding them, maintaining them? Some of us use memos, some of us don't, but that's something to keep in mind. Okay. So back over to our sales order. I'm going to exit out of here because it's easier to see what I want to point out. Here, under sales order printing, I'm going to go ahead and choose my form here. We have a new field, print orders on hold. Now you'll see this in quick print, and you'll see this in sales order printing. If you turn that on, it will print your orders that are on hold. I believe in the past that was a role maintenance action item, but now it's under sales order printing. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you don't want those ones on hold to print, take that check mark out. So let's run back into sales order entry. And what I want to show you in here that they've added, and it's, for some of us it's like, yeah, okay, there's a calendar button. So you can click on the calendar button, and now you can choose a particular date. To me, it would probably be better served in the, the ship date to see, okay, yeah, I know this is going to ship by the 5th. Or you can key it in just like you did before, but there's the calendar button there. So as I said, that's kind of it for the ones that I wanted to show you, but we are going to have a bonus round because there's something important that we need to talk about before we're done. But before I go into my bonus round, I wanted to tell you there are more features that I didn't get to show you. Otherwise, we would have been on for over an hour. We are going to include out on our website the release guide, what's new in Sage 2015, along with the documentation that I used to prepare the webinar today. So you will hope be able to see both of those out there, and I do encourage that you download that and you can look up the other features. What I wanted to talk about, and this is your bonus round today, is the new feature here for your ship to address having a ship via. Okay. Sounds like a great feature, but we actually have a client that this really is causing a huge problem for. And we are speaking to Sage about it, finding out if they're going to find out if there's a workaround. Because what happens is if you have a ship to location, this ship via right here controls what is in this field here. Okay, so let's kind of show you what I mean. If I create a new order and I choose this customer and I say, well, they are, for this order, they want to ship COD, or we're going to ship them COD. But then I come over to my address tab and I select a ship location, and I come back to my header. Oh, goodness gracious, it didn't change it. Wouldn't you know it, Let's take a look and see if they have one. And they do. Okay, that's interesting because during our testing, that was changing it. And I think I know why, because the customer that we're dealing with, this is blank. So what's happening is when they change the ship to, it automatically is changing this to a blank. So evidently I need to do a little bit more testing because it didn't change it here this time. And I'm not exactly sure why not. I think it's because it was blank. But we want to be very cautious. And before any of us who have sales order goes to that, goes to the 2015, we want to make sure that we've got that completely worked out because we definitely don't want that happening to you. And it might actually also be because this was here by default. Where the other customer has no defaults. So now I gotta work through a few things to figure out what's causing it. But we want to be very, very careful with that. Okay, so keep that in mind if you're going to the 2015 and you're using the sales order module. That these ship to locations have a ship via, and it in our case was writing back and writing over what the person had put in on that main tab. Okay, so. Lots of stuff that I went through for you very quickly. One of the other things I wanted to show you real quick before we leave is one of the features that they have for those of you that have different color on your companies. You can now choose whether or not to change the color on the frame or on the inside. So if you have multiple companies, now you can choose frame or screen. So that's the other bonus little piece that I wanted to give to you. Once again, I don't have any questions hanging out here, but I appreciate all of you coming. Don't worry that the 2016 is being released next month. For those of you that are thinking about doing the 2015, just give us a call. We are scheduling them now. We're probably doing at least one a week at this point in time. And 2016 will have its time once we get all those little issues worked out. Otherwise, thank you all for coming, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Have a great day, and see you on the next Tech Tuesday. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye now.